So to make and shape the heel, we're going to use the pushers. We're going to make some decreases going in, and then we're going to increase out. And it's important to have the lock set to the right setting. Let's see, so we have to have GX on the back lock. And looks like I already did that last night, so I wouldn't forget. Because we don't want the back bed to knit. We only want the front bed to knit because that's what we're knitting our heel on. And the front bed we're going to have on BX because that tells the lock to only knit where the pushers are. So first we have to pull forward all the pushers for each needle that's in working position. I have to, I find it easier. I have like a clothespin that I pulled apart, and I use that to push up my pushers. For some reason on this machine, maybe I need to deep clean it, I can only push up 2 or 3 at a time. So for every needle in work on the front bed, pushing up the pushers into working position. Okay, and then you can close your blocking rail. Make sure it closes. So we're going to start on the right hand side. The lock will be on the right, and we're going to take the right pusher and put it into rest position. And then we're going to knit 1 row. And then we're going to put the left pusher into rest position. And we're just going to continue in that manner until we have 14 stitches left in the middle. If you're making the smaller size that the pattern is made out to be, I think you go to just like 12 needles in the middle, but I increased mine to 14, and that turned out to be about right for my heel. So anyway, I will get started. Let's see, make sure I got yarn in there and everything is cool. Make sure I've got some tension on my yarn. And I'm going to set my row counter to 0. And I don't know, I guess I don't need the row counter for this, because what I'm really counting, what I'm really paying attention to is the pushers and how many I've put into rest. So I'm going to put the first pusher on the right into rest, and I'm going to knit 1 row. There we go. And then I'm going to put this pusher on the left hand side, the first one, into rest position, and I'm going to knit another row. Yay, okay, and now I'm going to put the next pusher on the right into rest, but before I knit my next row, I'm going to start wrapping stitches. The wrapping of the stitches helps the heel not to have holes along the side. It makes those stitches along the side of the heel a little tighter and closed up, a little more neat. So to do that, I will give you a close-up. Okay, so to wrap the stitch, it's very easy. What you want to do after you knit a row and you put your pusher at rest, you want to take the last needle that did not knit, because every time you put a pusher at rest, that needle's not going to knit. It's just going to hold. So you're going to take and just pick up your yarn and just lay the yarn just inside that needle that didn't knit. That's all there is to it. And then you go ahead and you can knit your row. There we go. Okay, so I just wrapped my first needle, and now I'm ready to knit my row. Okay. Now you put your next pusher on the left here at rest, and you're going to wrap the last needle that didn't knit on the left hand side now. There we go. And knit your row. Okay, and at a certain point after wrapping or putting your pushers at rest and wrapping, as you get closer in, you might find your stitches in the middle here getting a little puffy. And what you can do is just take your hand and just very gently smooth down the needles, and it'll push down those stitches before you knit your next row. It'll neaten them up a little bit. So also another thing you can do is watch your weights while you're doing this, and you want to just move them up closer to the action so that it'll hold your knitting down a little better. The heel tends to want to kind of puff up on the needles a little bit when you knit, so moving the weights up a little bit more does help. It's kind of hard to do it, but you wouldn't want to move the weights up all the way because you wouldn't want to damage your pushers. Anyway, so we're ready to put our next pusher at rest on the right hand side. Wrap the next stitch, the last stitch that did not knit. There it is. Okay, and knit my row. Go. Okay, now the left hand side, put the next pusher at rest. Wrap the last stitch that didn't knit. And knit my row. So you're going to continue working in that way until you have 14 needles in work in the middle, and all your other needles are going to be at rest. Alright, so I'm just finishing up my decreases. My lock is on the right hand side, so I'm going to put my right pusher at rest there. I'm going to wrap the last stitch that didn't knit. And knit my row. And before I put my next pusher at rest here, I see that there's one stitch right here on the end that's sort of halfway knit, so I'm going to make sure that I'm just going to re-knit that stitch by hand here. I'm going to make sure that's okay. There we go. All right. So I'm ready to put my last pusher at rest on the left hand side, and that will leave 14 stitches in the center. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, 14 stitches in the center. So when I put this last pusher at rest on the left hand side, I'm going to, on the right hand side, put my last pusher back into working position, because we're going to start increasing. So that's a little funny transition you make at the end of your decreases. You put this last one at rest, this last one goes back into working position on the right hand side. So let me remember to wrap my stitch now. Okay. And then knit my row. Okay, now we're going to start increasing. And when you do your increases, they're going to happen on the opposite side of the lock. When you were doing your decreases, they were happening on the same side of the lock. You put your pusher at rest. Now you're going to put a pusher back in work on the opposite side of the lock. And you're still going to wrap your stitches as you're increasing out. We're just going to continue in that pattern until all our needles are back in work.